We're going to be doing inventory, which is more based on valuing stock on hand and cost of sales. So people normally get confused between perpetual inventory system and periodic inventory system. Please note that with perpetual inventory system, it doesn't matter whether you're using first in, first out or phase or weighted average method. With perpetual inventory system, it simply indicates at what time or at which point do you need to calculate sales, do you need to calculate cost of sales, do you need to calculate the value of your closing stock. But the system doesn't change. So if you still use first in, first out, you'll still use first in, first out. But with perpetual, normally cost of sales and the value of your closing stock will be calculated after every sale. All right. And with periodic inventory system, it will only be calculated at the end of a specified period. Now, stock valuation. Whether perpetual or periodic or the periodic stock system is used, the physical stock count has to take place at the end of the year in order to determine the value of closing stock, okay? Under perpetual system, this figure is compared to the balance in the trading stock account, and under periodic system, this figure becomes a closing stock figure, which is necessary in the calculation of cost of sales. Stock taking involves physical stock counting of the stock. Let's assume you count 54 chocolates. In order to make the entries in the books, you need to know the value of the chocolates. Now, in this case, you will have to find the value of each chocolate. If the cost price, the price you paid, has remained the same throughout the period each year, then this is a simple calculation. If the cost price was 54 Rand per chocolate and you have 10 chocolates, you will simply multiply 54 with 10. In this case, actually, it's 54 chocolates for 10 Rand. So you'll just multiply 54 chocolates with 10 Rands, and that will give you 540. So 54 chocolate multiplied by the cost price will give you 540. However, it is rare that a dealer can obtain his stock at the same price throughout the year. You know that prices increase or decrease based on, well, throughout the year. It's based on various factors. It can be on fuel, as you realize petrol prices go up now and then. That will affect the cost price of each item. Now, obviously, costs will go up and down throughout the financial year. The price of chocolate has been increasing or decreasing. What value are we going to use, which becomes a problem now when the prices fluctuate, all right? Therefore, there is a need for a business to choose a method of stock valuation. There are basically 4 types of stock valuations. We've got a specific identification method. With specific identification method, you simply allocate the cost price of an item, in this case, a car. So if this car cost it cost us 500,000. It will not change. So that 500,000 will be attached only to this specific car. Okay. So that is specific identification method. Now, in this case, if this car is 500,000, it means that if we buy 2 of these cars, it will be 1,000,000. If we buy 5 of them, it will be 2.5 million. First in, first out. What is first in, first out? You'll realize this is the first yogurt we got. So that will be the second one, and this will be the third one, and this will be the last one. The first one we purchased will be the first one we sell. So basically, that's what first in, first out simply means. Meaning the one that came out last will form part of your closing stock because it might not be sold. So there's a high chance that the last one that came in might not be sold. The first one that came in will be the first one that goes out. And then you just like that. All right. Weighted average method. Here it's simply where we purchased a lot of items, but now it becomes difficult to trace the cost price of each item. As I showed you, we've got chocolates that we bought for 7 Rand, others we bought them for 6 Rand, others we bought them for 5 Rand. So when we sell these chocolates, we won't be able to figure out for how much was that chocolate purchased. So it will be difficult for us to calculate cost of sales. It will also be difficult for us to calculate the value of closing stock because we don't know when was the chocolate that we have as part of closing stock purchased. All right. So in this case, question is, what are we going to do? How are we going to value these items? So the best way is to use this first in, first out method. Because we don't know the actual cost of remaining stock and of stock sold, we will use the best estimate, which is finding the average price. Note that mathematically finding the average price is always the best estimate. It is the best estimate that predicts the actual amount, in this case, the actual price. Now, weighted average method formula simply means that when you calculate weighted average cost per unit, it will be total cost, total prices of units purchased divided by number of units purchased, all right? Now we've got specific identification method, of which I did say, specify, did explain. This is the simplest form of stock valuation where each item is assigned a cost. Features of the specific identification method: the cost price of each item of stock is recorded in a register, catalog, stock sheets, or computer database when the item is bought, right? Carriage inwards and other expenses incurred in purchasing the stock are also included in the calculation, as this increases the actual price of the stock. When an item is sold, its original cost price is recorded from the register, catalog, stock sheets, or computer database to be recorded as the cost of sales. When we sell it, we're going to record it as cost of sales at its original cost. When valuing stock at the end of an accounting period, stock list is prepared of all items on hand and the original cost price is allocated to each item. This system is best suited for businesses which sell relatively small quantities of large items, where the prices on each model of the product range remains unchanged, e.g. motor vehicle, dealer, or specialized TV shops. Now, stock values are realistic as they are based on the actual price of each item, except if an item has been unsold for a long period of time, in which case the original cost price might not be recovered. Okay, so you might have to sell it at a lower price. Now, let's look at this example here. In this case, we are selling TVs. Obviously, we have Luma LCD 29-inch. The cost price of each will be 2,000. So if we have bought 20, means the cost price will simply be 2,000 times 20, which is 40,000. Let's say we sold around 12 TVs. So the cost price will still be the same. It will be 12 multiplied by 2,000, which will give us 24,000. How many units do we still have on hand? It's 8. So it's 8 multiplied by 2,000. So that's what specific identification method simply says. If the product costs us 2,000, it will remain, the cost price of that product will remain as 2,000. Okay. And then we've got Primex LCD 36-inch. So in this case, the cost price is 4,000. So if we purchased 10 items, they'll give us 40,000. If we sold 7, so in this case, the cost of sales will simply be 7 times 4. In this case, it will simply be 28,000. And the remaining will be 3, which is 3 times 4, and that will give us 12,000. And then we've got the Bright Star LED 42-inch. Cost price here is 6,000. If we bought 10, they'll give us 60. If we sold 4, we'll simply take 4 times 6, which will give us 24,000. And obviously we have 6 remaining. 6 times 6,000, that will give us 36, which is cost of sales. I mean, in this case, it's actually the value of the closing stock, which is 36,000. Okay, and then we've got Smart Peak 3D 50-inch. The cost price of each there is 12,000. So if we bought 8, it will be 8 times 12 to determine the purchase price, the cost price. Okay, and then if we sold 7 of them, it will be 7 times 12, and that will give us 84,000. The remaining here will simply be 1, and that will give us 12,000. When we add the total of the board, that will give us the total purchase price. Okay, and then the total of the sold, it will give us cost of sales. This is cost of goods sold. It will be 116,000. Cost of goods that are still remaining, it will simply be the value of 18 TV sets that are still remaining, which is 76. Okay, this is the total value of stock that is still on hand, and that is the cost of sales value. Please try this from your New Era textbook. Now let's get to first in, first out method. Okay, first in, first out simply means that goods that were purchased first will be the first ones to be sold, meaning that closing stock will be made up of goods purchased last. I repeat, closing stock will be made up of goods purchased last. This system is best suited to businesses selling separate items where the cost price can easily be identified, like e.g. cars, laptops, cell phones, TV sets, etc. Now, these are the features of first in, first out. The stock on hand is calculated by identifying the cost price of the most recent batches of stock bought and allocating these cost prices to the number of items on hand. Carriage inwards and other expenses. Remember, carriage inwards is simply transportation costs that you incur to transport your stock to the warehouse, and other expenses that we incur in purchasing the stock are also included in calculation as these increase the actual cost of the stock. Stores which carry stock with a limited shelf life might prefer this method. Careful display of stock can replicate the first in, first out method by putting the old stock in front to ensure that it becomes the first stock to be sold and that you're left with the new stock. First in, first out, that's what simply means, all right? So basically I showed you one example there. So milk that you purchased recently, you put it in at the front, and the one that you purchased recently, you put it at the back. The one you purchased long time ago, you put it in front. So when you go and buy goods and you want a fresh one, it's actually advisable to start looking from the back, because those will be the latest goods or stock items that were purchased. This method is based on the assumption that stock acquired first is the first to be sold. This means that the oldest stock is sold first, and that the stock on hand at the end will always be the most recently acquired. And then I gave you one example here where we have Malloy Limited. Pty Ltd is an electronic company that sells laptops. Malloy Pty Ltd uses periodic systems, so they only calculate cost of sales and closing stock at the end of the period. But they use first in, first out method of valuing stock. Now let us look at the information they've got here. You're going to first start by calculating A is simply the cost price. You realize that the opening stock on the 1st of July, which is the beginning of the financial year, we had 7 units, and the cost price of each unit is 4,500. So if we want A, we'll just say 7 times 4,500. That will give us the value of A. In this case, well, I'm going to have it right now. We'll get to it. And then we're going to calculate B. B will simply be 6,000 times 6, it'll give us B. For us to calculate C, it'll be 50,000 plus 93,600 plus B. I don't know how much B is, but I just showed you how we're going to get C, which is 50,000 plus 93,600. So we know that B will be 36,000, which is just this 6,000 multiplied by 6, and that'll give you 36,000. So you multiply these two, it will give you 36,000. Okay, so if you multiply these two, we have here B as 36,000, and A will simply be 7,000. It's 7 times 4,500, and that will give us the value of A, and the value of A will simply be just put it there, it'll be 31,500. Okay, please note that these will be the first items to be sold, all right? And then we will simply, well, since we sold 28, I won't focus on the number of units that were sold more than anything. I'll only focus on the remaining, all right? Please note that in total, when you take 7 units that we purchased, well, that we had from last period, plus 34 units that we purchased, and minus those 5 that we returned, you'll realize that stock available to be sold will be 7 plus 34 minus 5. It'll be 36, but we only sold 28. It means that on hand we have 8 items that we still have on hand that were not sold. So we know that, well, we'll get to this later on, because we need to figure out how many units do we have available to be sold from units that were purchased on the 28th of February. Because remember, the latest units to be purchased will be part of your closing stock. Okay, the latest units to be purchased here will be the units that were purchased on the 28th of February, all right? Second latest will be the ones that were purchased on the 30th of December 2020. The earliest will be the opening, and the second earliest will be 30 September 2020. We'll get to that shortly. Now these are the questions. I'm just going to start by calculating A. We just did it. On the 1st of July 2020, we had the cost price of each item, which was 4,500. And we had how many laptops in this case? Let's see. We had, I think, 7 of them, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to say 7 multiplied by 4,500. That will give us the value of A, which is 31,500. Okay. In February, we purchased more units. Each unit was 6,000. And in February, how many units did we purchase in this case? Let's count. In this case, it was 6. Obviously, 6 times 6,000, which is the cost price, that will give us B, which is 36,000. Okay, but we returned 2 laptops. But we returned these 2 laptops on the 1st of October. Note that October comes on the 1st of October. You need to check what was the last purchase before the 5th of October. Let's go back to that. Last purchase before the 5th of October were these purchases here. All right, as we can tell here on the 7th of Jan, it was Jan 2021, we returned 3 laptops and the cost price was 5,200 each. The reason why the cost price is 5,200 each is because these returns were made after the last purchase, which was on the 30th of December 2020, and the cost price of those purchases on the 30th of December 2020 was 5,200, meaning that when you calculate the cost price of these goods, these laptops that we returned, which is just 3 of them, it'll simply be the cost price per laptop will be 5,200. We're going to multiply that by 3, and it'll simply give us 15,600. Now, when we calculate the value of your closing stock, which is the number of laptops on hand, what we're going to do now is simply to figure out the number of units on hand at the beginning of the period. It was 7, and then we purchased more, which was 10 plus 18 plus 6, and that will give us 34. And then we minus the ones that we returned. So laptops that were available to be sold in this case will simply be 36. But how many did we sell? We only sold 28, meaning that we still have 8 laptops that we did not sell. Question is, how do we review these laptops that do not sell? We're going to use first in, first out method. Remember, the ones that we purchased way earlier will be sold, but the ones that we purchased the latest will form part of cost of sales. So when we calculate the value of these 8 laptops that we still have on hand, we're gonna focus more on our latest purchases. Just to give you a summary, at the beginning of the year, we had 7 laptops, and then we purchased more during the year, which was around 24, and each were in September we purchased. In this case, let's check how many we purchased in September. Purchased about 18, if I'm not mistaken, in September, right? But out of those purchases, can I just confirm how many laptops we actually purchased in September? We actually purchased 10. My bad there. We purchased 10 in September. And out of the 10 that we purchased in September, we actually returned 2 on the 5th of October. So we no longer have that 10 from September. So units available in September to be sold will just be 8. And then obviously we purchased more in December, which was around 18 laptops. Okay, of these 18 laptops, each was costing us 5,200. Let's check if we returned any. Yes, we did. We actually returned 3 of these laptops, so we were left with 15 after all. We returned 3 of those, so we were left with 15, and the cost price of those 15 obviously will be 15 multiplied by 5,200. And then in February, we purchased 6 laptops. Each laptop was 6,000 rand. None of these laptops were returned or damaged. So we still have them on hand, meaning that the 8 laptops that we spoke about, 6 of them will come from the last purchase, all right? 6 of them will come from the last purchase, and 2 will come from the purchases, from the 30th of December purchases. Let me just play that for you so that you can see which one will comprise our closing stock. We have 8 laptops left. So 6 of them will be from the latest purchase. The latest purchase will be the 28th of February, which are these, and then 2 will come from the December. Okay, so in total that will give us 8 laptops that we still have on hand. So the cost price of these laptops will simply be 2 of the December purchases. So you multiply that by 5,200, and 6 of the February purchases, you multiply that by 6,000. So the value of our closing stock will be 2 times 5,200 plus 6 times 6,000, and that will give us 46,000 rand. When we calculate the value of our closing stock under periodic inventory system, we're going to be using a simple method. First of all, what is cost of sales? Cost of sales is simply the cost of goods or laptops sold during the financial year. Cost of sales under periodic inventory system means that the cost of sales may not be determined before the value of closing stock is determined. We now have the value of the closing stock. So we're going to use this formula to calculate cost of sales. It's simply opening balance, you add your purchases, you minus your returns or any discount, trade discounts, and obviously we have 179,600, which is our total purchases. We minus our returns, which is 28,000. Question is, how did we get that 28,000? That 28,000 was made up of 2 laptops, which cost 5,000. I'll go back to it. These laptops here that cost 5,000 each, and 2 of them will be 10,000. They were returned to the supplier, plus these 3 laptops here that were returned to the supplier, and the cost price of these laptops was 5,200, and you multiply that by 3. Actually, there's a mistake there. Let me just correct it quickly. All right, I just corrected my mistake. The mistake was simply on these returns, which will be Obviously, the value of these returns will be 15,600. The value of these returns will be 15,600. Now we're gonna actually, from our purchases, our returns in total will be 15,600, and then you add it with the 10,000, and that'll give you 25,600.